Good morning. This is Ed Meisigland. I'm the managing partner of Indiana Business Advisors, and we are delighted to have all of you here today. And we're doing something a little bit different, where we are having this available for acquisition webinar featuring a number of our businesses. So today we have two of our veteran brokers, Len Fulkerson and Gary Rapp. And today's webinar is sponsored by Live Oak Bank. So we're also joined by John Randall. And today probably more than any time in the 30 years that I've been in it, and probably 40 years that the company's been around, this is just an unbelievable time to be part of this, to be part of the acquisition process. And I'm not talking about taking advantage of businesses that have had challenges, but there are a lot of businesses that are going to come on the market for a variety of reasons, most of which you'll see today that it's because of retirement, not because there's something wrong with the business. And John will talk an awful lot about just the financing opportunities that are available. So this is a new platform. I'm not really certain how it's going to go. I'm certain that it will go well. But if you give me 1 second, here's the agenda for today. So, like I said, I want to thank Live Oak Bank for coming in and playing with us. They have always been a great partner to work with as far as getting deals done. So you'll hear a little bit more about John and the work that they're doing and how they can help you get into business here shortly. So how this is going to work. So in our practice, we have what's called a confidential business profile. And that has a number of things that attributes about the business that will help qualify whether or not it's of interest to you. So if you do have a question, I mean, we can't obviously breach confidentiality, but we can answer the questions that you might have. So in your webinar control panel, you'll see a place for questions, and just go ahead and put them in there, and we'll answer them as we go. The next question is, how do you get more information? So again, we'll answer questions on the fly, but in addition, you'll also receive the slide deck. Well, I take that back. Also in the control panel, you can see the slide deck, as well as what we call our listing brochure, which has all of the businesses that we represent, or most of the businesses we represent, and you're welcome to download them. On there is a confidentiality agreement that we use via DocuSign. So if you have an interest in one of these particular businesses, you're welcome to execute that and send it over. Now, what happens if you have to leave? Again, no problem. Chelsea, our marketing director, will take care of that, and you will see the replay of the webinar probably within the next 3 to 4 hours. Okay, so let's get started. Len Fulkerson. So why don't we welcome Len?
Hello, good morning.
So let's talk about this first business. So it's a contract painting business here in central Indiana.
Yes, yep, it primarily works with high-end residential customers on the north side of Indy, owned by two brothers that are getting close to retirement age. Have been very, very successful business.
So why now? I mean, aside from, I know that they're retiring, and what we've seen is a lot of home repair, home improvement businesses are really doing well post-pandemic. How are these guys doing?
Yeah, they're doing well. Doing well also. They are still in high demand. They've been they've been in partnership, the two brothers, over 20 years, and each of them were in their own painting business prior to that, and they came together around 2000. Their biggest challenge is turning people down, quite frankly. They've done no advertising, so this is a business that could really explode with the right ownership, right new ownership.
Well, one of the things I'm certain people are wondering is the decrease in revenue, roughly about 100 grand between 18 and 19. What happened?
Well, great question. Well, unfortunately, during 2019, there was some illness and employee issues.
I see.
So that took a big bite out of their income. Has been totally resolved now with a new general manager, and the health issues have been resolved. So 2020 expects to be back on target around 550.
Well, I think when we talk about any type of business like this, is what kind of experience do I need in order to operate? Now, I I'm a pretty good painter, but I'm not certain I could run a painting company. So what does that buyer look like?
Well, I think there's two ideal buyer groups. One would be a strategic buyer, obviously, somebody that's already in the industry, looking to expand their business into higher end residential painting and get into the north side of Indianapolis. That would be an ideal buyer. Another ideal buyer would be an entrepreneur that does enjoy painting. They do high quality work, so I just don't think you could be a painter like me and buy this business. I think you'd have to have some be meticulous and high quality, because that's what they base their business on. But an entrepreneur that wanted to get in the painting business and had that skill, be outstanding opportunity.
Yeah, and based on the asking price, it's positioned well. I mean, I as far as the market data that I've reviewed, it's good. So yeah, and hopefully John may be able to talk a little bit about that down the road, about what kind of financing opportunities there are for this type of business.
And this is one of those few businesses that is very, very, very easy to grow. Like I mentioned previously, I think is they've done zero advertising. It's all been word of mouth. So advertising would be one way of growth. Ad painters, they're turning down quite a bit of business week to week. They're just at the age where they don't want to go that extra effort to get more painters, which is understood. So if you want to add painters, you could add for your growth. And then thirdly, they do hardly any. They do a little bit, not very much commercial. So if you wanted to branch out into the commercial market, there's the third avenue of growth. So one of those few opportunities that the avenues of growth are readily available.
Awesome. Okay. Again, reminder, if you have any kind of questions regarding this business or any of our businesses, just go ahead and put that into the chat. All right. The next business, Len, is this one-stop shop for packaging, shipping, mailing, and printing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's one of those unique opportunities. This has been in business for around 3 years. And as you can see, the revenue hasn't been great, but the owner has not put as much time or effort into it as he really has wanted to. If you were to go out, and this is a franchise, if you were to go out and buy this franchise and start it from scratch, the franchisor would say you're probably going to have to spend somewhere between 150 and 200,000 or more to get this up and running. Well, here you already have the foundation already set with a revenue stream in a excellent location in the Indy metro area. So this particular owner is just ready to move on to other things. He knows he cannot devote the amount of time to this it needs.
Okay. So I know most franchises do their own research on locations and such. I mean, what do you have any idea what this business is capable of doing?
Great question. No, I cannot answer that exactly, but I do know it's in a county adjacent to Marion County. What's really great about this is there's no competition. The closest competition, direct competition, is 7 miles away. The only competition in the area is the post office. So it is a growing, one of the growing metro areas of Indianapolis. So I can't answer that exactly, but I know there could be really a lot of growth with this. And what's also good about this was deemed an essential business during the COVID crisis. So this business is essentially recession proof, and it's shown to be COVID proof.
Well, that's certainly good. What I mean, how much further do we have to go before we show profitability? Because I know we're basically looking at tangible and intangible asset value. So
Yeah,
franchise plus the equipment. I mean, do
yeah,
we have a
good
long
point.
way to go?
No. Almost any growth, almost all the overhead is currently pretty well covered with the current revenue.
Okay.
So any growth is going to start showing profitability. He has an asking price of 59,000, but with that you get 47,000 of approximately 47,000 of tangible assets plus $2,000 to $3,000 of inventory. With a little bit of input from you initially, it's ready to grow.
Yeah, and it seems so, and it seems that it's priced right for an introductory. That I've paid to open and paid the initial investment and working capital to get it to break even. Now now someone has the opportunity to capitalize, on the profitability from this point forward. I get it.
Right. So
yeah.
Yeah, so if an entrepreneur that is excited about a business that's already got a foundation, then all they got to do is work the business to grow it. Great opportunity, and a great area of growth in this potential business would be working with other businesses. They have not gone out a lot and worked with other businesses in the community, but that could be a great resource for growth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the HVAC company. Tell us about that one.
Well, if you want a recession and a COVID-proof company, this would be the one. They haven't really seen much of a downturn at all during the year, and in fact, they're seeing explosive growth right now. Owned for many years by two gentlemen that are each ready to retire. So this is within an hour drive of Indianapolis and in a college community.
So HVAC, what I mean, and it's back. It's one thing to painting. You get training. You have with your shipping operation, you have you get the franchise training. So with this business, I mean, what does it take to own and operate an HVAC company?
Great question. So this company has two owners. Both are great gentlemen. I don't say that fictitiously. One of them is probably willing to stay on for some period of time. I don't know what that is, but it's not like they're going to sell it and be gone tomorrow. So one of the gentlemen is going to be willing to stay there for a time. The other gentleman wants to see this business thrive. So he is willing to stay on during the transition period and hand the reins over to new ownership. So I don't think you have to be a technician to run this business. I think you have to have a good business mind and willing to learn the basics in and outs of HVAC industry.
Yeah, and certainly heating and cooling and home services is an explosive area to be in. There's a ton of consolidation going on upstream, and this is, like I said, I think this isn't going away either. This type of business is only going to, you'll always need heating and air. And so, yeah, I like this business a lot. And from a pricing standpoint, again, this is a good price. It looks, that the debt can be easily covered. And if you want the real estate's available too.
Yeah, absolutely. So they got, going back to what kind of skills you need to have. They've got 7 to 8 high quality technicians that have been on board for a while. They've just initiated last year a brand new software program that gives the technicians a lot of capabilities out in the field as far as making estimates and billing right in the field. So this is primarily a residential company at this time. And if somebody's looking to grow it, once again, there's that commercial side that they haven't tapped very well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Len. I'm gonna move to Gary now.
Very good.
And again, back to the same thing. If you have any questions, I've been fielding the questions and sharing them with each of our guides as we've gone along. So
Good morning,
we'll go ahead. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you for joining us. And why don't we start with your business, the semi-absentee shipping and business service store, multiple locations. This is pretty good.
Yeah, this one, the owner, she started it new in 2005. She's had it for 15 years, and she is looking to retire. She's a semi-absentee owner. She's really been struggling with it, selling it, because it does so well without her. But her and her husband, their fourth child just graduated high school and going off to college. And they want to do some things, personal things, and just don't want to be tied to the business anymore. So she's spending maybe somewhere between 16 to 24 hours a week on the store. They're doing bookkeeping, inventory, scheduling, and yeah, they have 2 locations. The managers have been in place. One store had the manager that has been there for 6 years, other than there's 4.5 years. All the employees have lived what they call a peak season during the Christmas holiday, which is, in this business, is basically your 12th and 13th month. You basically double your revenue during the Christmas holidays. So it's well staffed, and there's not really much competition in the area as well. And,
yeah, one of the things that for both you and Len on this these shipping and business service stores is, with more people operating from their home, and certainly that trend is going to continue. You need places like this. I know where I've lived, or where I live, that I've gone and rather than go to the office, I've utilized these types of services. And I know many, and I was talking to one of the owners, and they were saying, PO boxes are up, everything, from faxing to scanning to just mail support. It is certainly not going away.
Yeah, I'm kind of unique in with this one. I actually owned one of these franchises for 10 years before selling it 5 years ago. And I was a customer. I was a consultant in the IT consulting business, and prior to this, and I was a customer to this. I would ship my laptop. I would go in to have my PowerPoint presentations printed and bound, and instead of lugging all this stuff to conferences or to trade shows, I would ship it all ahead. So I was actually a customer. I liked it so much, and I was living out of state, and I bought one here in Indiana and moved here. And
nice.
It's just in my store it actually grew 300% while I had it. So it's definitely
that might have been the operator.
Well, it's I toyed with actually the consulting company we had before. We grew it to 150 people, and it was a privately held consulting business. Me and a partner started it up, but I wanted to do something again, and I had a non-compete, and I was always concerned about franchises because the royalty fees, but you're in business for yourself, and it's a proven business model, and had a nice little national logo associated with it. So I was in business for myself, but not by myself.
Yeah.
And then these stores around the country, there's a little over 5,000 around the country, and they claim that 80% of the U.S. population has a store within 5 miles of it. So as a result, with all the e-commerce things that's happened over the like last 15 years, this business has a tremendous amount of volume. To give you an example, when I bought my store in 2005, I had 37 people come in with prepaid labels, like Amazon returns or people ship back their AT&T Uverse equipment things. Last year, that same store had 81,000 for the year.
Nice.
So it just brings a lot more people into the store, and then they see other services you offer. So it was a business model that you brought a lot of warm leads as they walked in your store.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that's striking about this business, especially since it's semi-absentee, is the continued revenue growth. And a lot of business owners, when they step away or partially step away, if they don't have a skilled team that's in place, there tends to be a little bit of a financial drop off. So this tells me from a value standpoint that it does have a sound second tier of management there that's preserving the revenue. So I think that from a value standpoint, it certainly helps.
That's absolutely correct. Having a skill set to run one of these stores, even though the franchise is there and you could only imagine all the training that you get. But within the first month, you can pretty much be able to do about 80% of the work. But with the management in place, it's pretty much a turnkey operation. Yeah, it's just, and then the owner, to make this thing grow, they basically do very little outdoor marketing. It's just basically word of the mouth, and it's a destination where people go to now.
Yeah.
And they got the franchise who are out there promoting, driving business to the store, not only through the walk-in traffic, but also through e-commerce opportunities that come to the business where you don't even see the customer. Everything can be transferred. I used to say 42% of my business went out the back door through the internet, and 58% of the business actually walked through the front door. 58% pretty much paid all the bills, but the other percent was all the profit.
Nice.
So it was it's a great franchise. It's a proven business model. There's over 5,000 stores around the country.
Nice. Well, that's a good one. All right. So
just one last thing. It's like if you started one of these new, it costs somewhere between 161 to 200 and actually 470,000. So at the price of basically a new store, you're going to get a store that's cash flow positive. So.
Nice. Well, it's a good opportunity. Okay. Again, back to if you have questions as we go along, you are welcome to put them into the chat. And like I said, we're happy to answer them on the fly. So let's talk about this family friendly brew pub. Tell us about that one.
And once again, this is another owner. It's independently owned and operated, and yeah, he was in the restaurant business several years ago, and after he finished his non-compete, he decided, hey, I really enjoy the restaurant business. There's some growth in this part of town. He says, I always wanted to own a brew pub, another family-friendly thing. So let's just open it up, and so we have something to do. So he did it, and their fourth child just graduated high school as well. And in the restaurant business, if you ever worked the restaurant business, it's a significant amount of work, and the business is actually just taken off. I mean, the last 12 months, it's done about $2.3 million in revenue, and cash flows north of 550,000. So it's been a lot more successful than he ever wanted it to be. And at this stage in his life, he does not want to work this hard. So this is a great opportunity for someone that, with a lot of the restaurants struggling right now, there's a lot of great GMs out there or other types of groups, restaurant groups, would be interested in acquiring this, because it definitely cash flows well, and it's in the area that it's in. It's really grown. I mean, it's got a lot of businesses around it, so you have the lunch crowd, and then they've got another group of people come about 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We call it the happy hour group. Then you got the dinner crowd, which is a family crowd. Then after 9 o'clock, you have the late night people. So you basically have a lot of people coming when you're open, and they're open 7 days a week, 11 to 11, except from Friday and Saturday. They're open from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. So they've just in the restaurant, during the COVID-19, all restaurants were hit hard, including this business, but they were able to still cash flow positive through the COVID, even when they were basically had no customers inside the restaurant. And just to give you an idea, the last 2 weeks, their revenue is up. Like 2 weeks ago, the revenue was up 9.4%, and last week the revenue was up 5.6% versus same period last year. And that's with two things that they had going against them. Obviously, they have limited seating, like 50% capacity seating, and also they had to close early because of the mayor put in some type of curfew because of the protests that were going on. So during that time, compared to last year, they still exceeded revenue. This area continues to grow. Businesses are moving in. They're building more multifamily units and apartments in the area. So you're getting both. It's a very walkable community, and so yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about a business like this is, you know, when challenges or consumer tastes change or the environment changes, the true test of a concept and the stickiness of, you know, of their longevity is can they withstand it? And I think this business has done that. I mean, from looking at all kinds of different food and beverage businesses in the last, in the last few months about what do we do, this is one of the few, and I'm certain that, it's probably in the top 20% of food related businesses, well run, well operated, and to have growth after all we've seen, that's a big deal for this type of, business. So I like it a lot. I think it's well positioned, and and so they're looking to spend more time with their family. And I think if I'm a buyer, I'm wondering, are they going to go back into business again?
Yeah, well, they're they're young enough, they probably could, but if you're a buyer, I would have a non-compete. This is a different concept than what they had before, and
Yeah. Okay.
it just, once again, it's got a great work ethic. They don't have extensive menu. They have a menu that appeals to the masses, not just the classes. So yeah, so it's
if I'm a first-time buyer, is this a good idea for me or no?
If you got the net worth to buy it, yeah, it's and it had the restaurant experience. Because you go to John Randall, if you don't have the restaurant experience, you go to your bank, they're probably gonna let you buy this one. But if you have a partner who has experience running a kitchen like this, and they've got the master brewer they have on staff is great. So but it would take a handle-on owner operator.
Okay.
To run this. Yeah. So it's.
Oops. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
So now we're going to talk about a cabinet and countertop business that offers sales, installation, and design. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, this is like a factory outlet place. They've got a huge warehouse. It's 30,000 square foot warehouse, and they just got cabinets, all types of cabinets you'd ever want, and it appeals to a lot of different people. One being the do-it-yourselfer, the guys at the weekend guys, or hey, the wife says, hey, let's get the kitchen updated, but they don't have the money, but they can go in place and they can find really good quality cabinets at affordable prices, and allows you to do it. You can do it yourself. So that's one customer base. Then you have the general contractors too. They come in and they're a great resource of client base. And additionally, customers that come in they have a extensive line of inexpensive cabinets that really look great in apartment complexes. There's a lot of apartment complexes that don't need the high-end cabinets, and there's a lot of turnover in apartments that get scratched and dinged and need to be replaced. So the apartment complex, they're a big customer. The other customer base is the house flippers. People are buying the homes and remodeling them and putting in just the right type of cabinets. That if you're buying a $200,000 house, you're putting $200,000 cabinets that fit that home, versus they also have cabinets that will go in $1 million homes. So, and also work with countertops where you get granite, quartz, laminate, and they have a design team that helps you choose different colors as well.
So where are they getting their product? I mean, how does that work?
They have a variety of sources. They've basically got 3 tractor trailers, and they hire contract, and they have sources where they say, hey, next year's model is coming out, and we need to get these out of our warehouse, and so they'll buy them from various sources. Then they hire a contractor with a tractor, and they hook their trailer up, and they go get it and bring it back, and that's their source. And they also get trim work and doors, hinges, and all types of things that people need as well.
So it looks like from a revenue standpoint, it continues to grow. I mean, how do we explain that? I mean, anything in particular, or is it just because, the economy's good, credit's good, we can flip houses, we can do remodels, or is there something more to it?
Yes, it's, people are staying in their houses longer, so they wanted to update their homes. So more and more people are remodeling the two areas of your house to remodel: the kitchen, your bathroom. That's what they focus on.
Yep,
So
I've lived that dream myself.
Yeah, same here. So it's but they basically are only open once again. They actually just reduced the hours. They work from 10 to 5 Monday through Tuesday through Friday, and a half a day on Saturday.
It's a good way to roll.
Why? Well, the owners are in their late 50s and they want to spend more time on their boat down in Florida. So nice. That's why they want to actually sail around the world. So that's why they're wanting to sell the business. They want to do it while they have their health. They've been in this business. Well, this business has been in operation for 40 years, and the owner, he bought it from the previous owner about 20 years ago. So he knows he's been in the business a long time, and it's time for him to set sail.
So one of the things from the chat, is there an explanation between 18 and 19 adjusted cash flow decreased by about 30,000, even though revenue went up nearly 100,000?
Yeah, actually, there was one of the reasons there was a fire at one of his storage locations, not at this location, but another location, and he got an insurance check that came in through that was about $30,000 that happened in 2018. So yeah. In addition, it's based on how inventory flows in and out.
Oh, sure. I can see that. So also the real estate is available, right?
That's correct. Okay. It's a 30,000 square foot building, and he's asking a really favorable market value. I mean, I think he's somewhere between 50 to 75,000 for the building. Nice. That's on an acre too. So
our good buddy John will tell you that will make his day to have some real estate to borrow against, right, John?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Again, any further questions, just put them in the chat. All right.
This would be a great business. Going back to that previous business, it'd be a great business. If you're a general contractor, or if you're a handyman guy, and you just want to get out of the weather and work inside and work with customers and get out of the general contracting business, and in the later part of your career, if you're like mid 40s, this would be ideal. You can still work with your buddies, like the general contractors and do-it-selfers, and help them design it, but you don't have to be out there in that weather and dealing with carrying things to the site location. This would be ideal for that type of buyer.
Yeah, I like the deal a lot. All right, Which now, Which big fan of the product. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a location here just on the outskirts of Indianapolis, and it's been in business since about 2016, and they had really great growth coming out of the gate. But where it's located at, they got a lot of visibility, but they have a lot of competition come in last year in 2018. So that took a hit on revenue. But once again, this is an Absentee owned. The owners, there's two partners in this business, and they have other interest, and they've been granted the franchise rights to grow, the master franchising rights to grow another franchise in the state of Indiana in a non-competing space. So they're going to focus their time on that. So they're selling this Which store.
Yeah, and speaking of Which, typically in our process we don't disclose the name of the business. I mean we don't do that. In this case, we have permission to use the name. So I did want to make everyone aware of
good point.
Yeah, all of our confidentiality. So
because actually I just want to add to that is some of the feedback I was getting when people inquired about, they were inquiring about a Subway sandwich shop, and there's a huge difference between a Subway versus a which store, just the clientele and the product base. So we talked to our corporate office. They allowed us to use the which name in our marketing materials.
So, any idea? One of the questions is, any idea what 2019 is looking like from a revenue standpoint?
Yeah, well, because of COVID-19,
Oh, sure. We're down.
it got hammered because they didn't have anybody in the lobby, so all they had was, and they don't have a drive-through, so all they had was basically a curbside pickup and using delivery through like Grubhub.
Yeah.
So this is one of those franchises that, you know, it takes between 240 to 400,000 to build it out and get in it with zero revenue, and this is a great opportunity to get in this at 139.
So speaking of the 139, tell me, break that out. What do I get for $139,000?
Basically, you get a business that's up and running, all the employees, all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment to own and operate the business, along with the computer systems. And you would need the only thing you'd need to add would be go to training in Dallas. There's a 2.5-week training in Dallas. Once you're approved, you have to go down to which the seller that pays for your orientation. You go down for 1-day orientation, and you get approved. And once you're approved, then you go through the process of the training.
Okay. All right. Your cell phone, iPad, electronics repair business. How about this?
I believe this is my last one that we want to highlight today. Is this one? This is a perfect job for if you want to buy yourself a job. You know, a lot of people out there are not necessarily an absentee owner. They just want to be in business for themselves and hang their own shingle. And this business has been around for about, I think, a little over 5 years now, right 4.5 to 5 years. And the cell phone repair business, it's a $4 billion business. Like 95% of the people in the U.S. own a cell phone. And of those 95%, at least 80% of them break them. So, and they need to be fixed. And if you look at the insurance clause, if you've ever had insurance and you broke your cell phone, there's a lot of fine print. So, you know, the owner of this business, he became his own customer. He dropped his iPhone and broke the glass, and he went to one of these break-fix places to have it fixed, and he couldn't believe how much it cost to have it fixed. And he goes, well, I think I can figure this out. I'm kind of handy. So he was able to fix it for about 75% less than what it would cost. He says, well, so he started doing it out the bedroom of his home while he had his other job. And this business took off so well, he decided to quit his full-time job and do this full-time. So he opened up a shop. He's got a part-time employee, but he basically works it Monday through Friday. And he's been able to make a nice income. He averages about a net income of $10,000 a month. So nice little business. Got a great rent. It's a little 1,000 square foot store. He's got it's $1,500 a month rent, and it includes all utilities, and it's a destination. He does his marketing is on Facebook and social media, and he's got a lot of repeat customers coming into the store. In addition to it's not only his customers, but his competition in the area. He's got a lot of the equipment to be able to do board level fixes and things. So 22% of his business comes from his competition. They send their customers to him because he can fix it. Instead of getting your iPhone 10 fixed, we can use some of the equipment he has to be able to solve the board level problems they are faced with the iPhones, so and the Android phones.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that any buyer it goes through the back of their head is, you know, I'm looking at this and there's a part-time employee and the seller is doing the work. Now, how, you know, can I be trained? It's kind of like the painting company that Len was talking about. You know, can you teach me? Can you teach me HVAC? And in this case, can this service be taught in order for me to you know, mitigate the risk of buying this company? So can you talk about that?
Yeah, just like any job, right? You don't know if you can do the job until you you try it. In this case, you would need to be somebody that's can run a soldering iron and be able to read an electronic schematic. Something you can be taught. The owner, he brags that he only has a high school education and he's able to teach himself along with. He actually went through a course. There's a course there's taught by like a guru out of New York, and it's all done virtually. And
Nice.
he basically was able to teach himself, and he's become really good at it. And, he actually has people actually ship things to him to get fixed, and he returns them back to him
Nice.
from outside of the region. So he's become that business is. But he feels like he could train somebody. He's willing to stay on and train somebody. Unlike what he didn't have the experience, and no one trained him. He self-taught, but he said he's willing to stay on after the sale. He's no big hurry to go. He's a young guy, but him and his wife, they want to actually move to Sedona, Arizona. He says, why should I wait to retire to go live where I want to live? Because I can pretty much do anything he's got another part-time job that he does online through e-commerce, and he feels like he can go where he wants to be and live and not be tied to a physical brick and mortar.
Yeah, good for him. Okay. Anything else we need to know about this one?
No, it's a mom. In this case, it's just a pop shop, and it's like I said, it's a great way to buy yourself a job, and within 1 year you could pretty much pay off your debt and be able to have $100,000 a year job. If you have the skills, the key thing is that having the skill set and ability to learn.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to move on. I'm going to pinch it for our colleague Andy Lamberson. He is vacationing today. He had asked me to talk about this 35-year-old downtown Bloomington restaurant and bar, and this is a heck of an opportunity. I mean, it's been around, like I said, for 35 years. Extremely motivated parties that they're looking to get out of the business. The revenue is running roughly about $500,000. It's got a great name. It's got a two-way liquor license, favorable lease. It's and I think in this case, this is a great opportunity because of the level of motivation. And at $100,000, it's priced perfectly from a from an investment standpoint. And again, you don't have to be married to the concept. You can certainly change it to whatever it is that you want. So you have the foundation that's that's in place, and now it's just a matter of growing it. So that is that particular business. And if you have any questions on it, certainly let us know. All right, so now again, I want to do a couple reminders. One, in your control panel, the slide deck, as well as what we call our listing brochure, is in there. These, I think we had roughly 8 or 9 businesses. We have anywhere from 90 to 120 businesses at any given time during the year. So we have all kinds of opportunities, and we just wanted to feature these this month. So if you see anything you like there, or you want additional information, certainly reach out to us that way. All right. I want to talk about John Randall for a minute. So Live Oak Bank is our webinar sponsor. I've known John for 20 years now, when he first got into town. And one of the best things about him is his ability to say, if I'm going to get a deal done, I'll get it across the finish line somehow, some way. And that's why we wanted to reach out to him and say, you know what, why don't you come hang out with us on our debut acquisition webinar. So John, welcome, and give everybody an overview of what the SBA guy does.
Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate the invitation. I've done 19 years now, I've always felt I've had the greatest job in the world. I get to help customers negotiate and fund what's typically the biggest investment of their lifetime. But of those 19 years, this has been absolutely the most exciting time to help fund business acquisitions, partially because of the CARES Act and some free money that's being provided by the U.S. Treasury Department, and partially because interest rates are so low, but mostly because of the number of boomers that are ready to sell their business. There's just an awful lot of great opportunities for buyers right now. And like I say, it's been the most exciting time ever.
Yeah.
If you'd be willing to advance the slide for me,
I will.
you know, the timing's been fantastic. The opportunities are right. Live Oak Bank has been the #1 SBA lender nationally for the last 2 years, and we're on track to do it again. But the reason for that, to me, is the important thing, and it's the bank was built just for doing SBA loans. And because we were built around that process and improving it, we have a 42-day average application to close, which means we've been able to condense the process, help people do their due diligence and close quickly and take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that are out there. And one of the most common questions I've been getting is why are we talking SBA financing rather than conventional financing? Rates are low. Why do I need to do an SBA loan? And the easy answer is the SBA allows us to finance goodwill or enterprise value without hard collateral like a conventional lender would require. So rather than real estate or brokerage accounts or those other things that a conventional lender would look for, you can finance a business with little or no collateral using an SBA loan. And the process is fairly easy and straightforward. This morning, I'll just highlight a few key points in the process and look at the deal structure that you'll probably end up with. But that process starts with simply looking at the offering memorandum and the cash flow add backs and understanding what cash is available to service debt and pay you as an owner. And I can review those and put together a pre-qualification letter or a deal structure for you to plug into a letter of intent. And I don't need information from the buyer to do that. I just need seller info. But as a buyer, be aware that at some point in the process, you're going to be asked for 3 years of tax returns and a personal financial statement and a resume. And if you can have those prepared and ready to go during your search process, you'll have most of what you need to make it a quick and easy financing process when it's time. Jump to the next slide for me, if you would. This is an example of a typical SBA deal structure, and it's a template that you can use as you're doing back of the napkin calculations for a purchase, but it's also something that I can update for you quickly, generally within 24 hours of getting a financial package. You know, I base this off a $1 million purchase price. On top of that, we'll add in working capital and all the closing costs. So you can see on a $1 million purchase, your down payment will be 10%, roughly $113,000 of the total project cost. You'll get a loan for about $900,000. And in this post-COVID environment, there's likely to be a seller note, somewhere between 5 and 15% of the total project amount. In this example, I used a 10% seller note or $113,000. We have to make some assumptions as we put these together. You know, a buyer that has a lot of credit card debt or a very large home mortgage or other outstanding obligations will not be able to borrow as much as a buyer that's nearly debt free. So in each of these pre-qualification letters, you'll likely see some sort of estimate for a maximum buyer salary requirement. It's not a limitation on how much you're allowed to pay yourself after closing. It's just a suggestion that if you need more than that salary to live on, the deal structure is probably going to change. We're always going to look for translatable experience, which typically means as a buyer, you need to have managed a similar number of employees and a similar sized budget or P&L. You don't have to have done it in the exact same industry. You just need to have had the experience of managing those people and having responsibility for a similar sized budget. We're looking for reasonable personal credit history and making sure that you can get whatever required licenses are required to run the business. It's a fairly straightforward process. I'm happy to discuss it in more detail with you one-off. Let's look at the next slide and we can talk about some of the seller note structures that we'll often see post-COVID. Many of you know that the SBA does not allow earnouts. However, we can do a seller note with clawbacks or what's often referred to as a reverse earnout. And we can tie that clawback to revenue or key customers.
Hey, John, wait 1 second. So for those of you that don't know what an earnout is, because it stands to reason that there's probably some first-time buyers. An earnout is basically if-then financing. So if certain things happen, then I'm willing to pay you. And the SBA, I don't know how many years ago, 4 or 5, basically said that doesn't work for us. So that's what John's talking about, is that what he's talking about, it functions in the same risk mitigating way that a buyer needs, but it functions in the same way as a traditional earnout. Carry on, John.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification, and that's exactly right. And we can tie that seller note adjustment to any number of key things that you're trying to address in ensuring stable revenue or profitability going forward. Outside of a seller note, there's some other things we could do. We can escrow funds for a period of time, and assuming all key items are obtained or achieved, release those funds to the seller, or if those items are not met as intended, simply pay the loan back down with those escrow funds. There's a lot of very creative structures that we can put in place to make sure as a buyer you're protected as you make acquisitions today.
Yeah, and I think that's another great attribute of just, you know, the SBA process, is because the provisions that are put in there helps the buyer mitigate a lot of their acquisition risk. It does the SBA or the bank no good to get into a deal that goes bad. So I like it. Aside from just the capital accessibility, I do think that it helps the buyer get into a superior deal that they probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
I agree.
John, do you yeah, we've got a boatload of questions. Always the guy with the money. So why don't we start with the first one, which is, what's the rule of thumb for the amount of working capital that can be financed as part of the purchase?
Excellent question. There's a lot of ways to do the calculation or back into it, but the best rule of thumb is there needs to be enough working capital. I will tell you that it will vary based on the type of business and whether or not you're acquiring the receivables or the inventory or some amount of cash with the purchase agreement. Generally, I like to get almost as much working capital as the buyer's down payment. Another way to look at that is that's typically 45 to 60 days of receivables. Another way to look at it post-COVID is you need sufficient working capital to weather a potential storm. And because of that, we're often lending more working capital than we did historically. Often it's going to be part of the term loan. It's permanent working capital that's going to be wired to your checking account the day after you close on the business. And then for some businesses that are highly seasonal, you'll receive an additional amount of working capital from a credit line. but let's talk about it on a deal by deal basis, just knowing that it doesn't do me
Yeah.
or a buyer any good to close without sufficient working capital.
All right. The next question is, what happens if you don't have the management experience, but you're planning on buying a business that has employee, like, well, some of these deals that we just talked about, that, you know, management is in place, and you just want to be the owner operator, not necessarily being the practitioner of the service.
Sure. So I'll go back to the translatable management experience requirement.
Mm.
You know, managing a similar number of employees and a similar size budget is what the SBA is looking for. There's always going to be some operational expertise that you can acquire an ops manager
Sure.
with the business that can handle that side of the business. If you take a manufacturing business, for example, there's somebody that's managing things out on the floor, and there's somebody managing sales, and there's somebody managing vendor relationships. You don't have to know how to do all three, but you should be an expert at one of those things or two of those things and hire somebody to do the others.
Got it. All right. I know we're bumping up on time. Do you have time to answer some more questions?
Absolutely.
All right. So the next one is the credit market tightening up due to the pandemic?
Yeah, what I will tell you is there's been a lot of non-bank SBA lenders that have left the market. They're simply not lending. They've let their sales teams go. Most of the bank lenders have made some adjustments. For example, focusing on ongoing capital expenditures and adjusting their debt service coverage requirements, or focusing on post-closing liquidity. There's a couple of SBA lenders in this market that have said if you don't have 6 months of cash on hand to make all business and personal debt payments after closing, they can't help you.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will tell you is, for the number of businesses that have struggled through COVID, there's just as many that have thrived. There's a lot of COVID-proof businesses, and for the top SBA lenders that are still doing deals and it's business as usual like Live Oak, we are going after those transactions aggressively. So there's plenty of dollars available to finance acquisitions today.
All right. So the next question is, does a hotel or motel qualify for the SBA 6-month debt relief program? And first things first, you may want to talk about the debt relief program. And number two, does that type of business qualify?
So I mentioned it's a very exciting time to do an acquisition. One of the reasons is the CARES Act provides for 6 months of principal and interest payments to be made on a buyer's behalf, as long as they close before September 25th of this year. In other words, if you do a business acquisition, and it's typically a 10-year loan, the first 6 months payments are free. The U.S. Treasury Department's making them on your behalf. And it applies to any SBA 7A loan, regardless of the industry.
So that leads to the next question of does motel, and this guy or this woman had the question of, do hotels and motels qualify?
They do.
Nice. From a timing standpoint, I mean, that's a pretty, to get it done, what are we looking at, 90 days from now? I mean, that's a pretty aggressive schedule to get through. So can you talk a little bit about your time frame? Once they find a deal, let's talk through that, because the buyer has their own set of due diligence and stuff that they do, and then it moves into financing. So how long from the time you get it to close? And I think, what did you say, 45 days?
Yeah, 42 days has been my average over the last 7 years, application to closing. That being said, that process is going to slow down the closer we get to September, because of the number of transactions that are going to be pushed through the pipeline. So realistically, you probably have 25 to 30 days if you're really going to take advantage of this to have a letter of intent in place.
Yeah. Is there anything that they can do to get to the front of the line, or is it just first come, first served?
It's first come, first served. That being said, the most complete packages get the most attention. So if you're planning on going through that process, reach out now so you can get a full financing checklist and start completing items now, even if your letter of intent's not yet in place, so that your package will be ready to go and we can process it quickly once you're ready.
You know what? If that's readily available, would you send that over to Chelsea, and we'll include that in our replay email.
I will do that.
Okay. All right. The next question is a growth through acquisition kind of thing. So this person owns a business, but doesn't have much capital to put up to acquire a new business. So how much can be funded by the SBA, and what would be required of him or her?
I think that's an excellent question. The SBA recognizes that it's important for existing business owners to keep as much cash as possible on their balance sheet rather than pouring it into new acquisitions. And because of that, they've allowed us to do expansion financing for existing businesses with $0 down. In other words, for existing businesses that are growing by acquisition in the same industry or a related industry, we can do those acquisitions with no down payment. The same thing applies for existing businesses that are looking to buy real estate. If you're looking to buy the building you're leasing or buy a bigger building, that same expansion program applies. So you can do that with little or no money down.
Wow. Okay. That's a big one. That I didn't know that. So if you're growing through acquisition and you have identified a target, you don't necessarily have to put any money into the deal in order to acquire it.
That's exactly correct. There's
Wow.
some requirements about balance sheet equity. You need to show that you have that equity. Typically, it's a 10% equity mark, but it can stay within your existing business. You don't have to write a check at closing.
All right. The last question is refinancing options. Are you seeing much of that? And better yet, is it available, and how do you do it?
Sure. So to be eligible to be refinanced with an SBA loan, the debt has to be on unreasonable terms. And the SBA defines unreasonable terms as an excessively high interest rate, typically upwards of 12%. So that's difficult. But the other unreasonable term that we often can use is if there's a balloon payment at any point in the current loan. So if you had a 10-year loan, but at the end of year 5, it was all due and payable.
Yeah.
We can take that loan and refinance it using an SBA loan.
Yeah, I had known a number of people that a lot of small business owners run pretty high balances on their credit card, that's running at 15 to 17%, and I've known a number of people that have taken that out. I just didn't know that that the SBA was a viable option for that. That's great. And the program that would fall under is not necessarily the 7A program, right?
Typically, it'll be the 7A or the 7A Express program using
right.
a revolving facility. Yep.
I got it. Okay. Well, John, that's the end of the questions. If I'll wait just a second, but that's the end of the questions. Anything you want to add before we let you go?
No, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the partnership and always look forward to talking. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us, and again, this is a different way of communicating with the people that the prospective buyers. So I hope that you found this format beneficial. you're certainly more than welcome to give us feedback through the various channels. If you have any questions on these specific businesses, again, remember they're in the handouts that's found in your control panel. Here's the contact information for all of our guys that spoke today. And again, we think it's a fabulous time for everyone to be entrepreneurs. There's people that have been displaced. There's people that are looking to grow through acquisition. And I like John, I'm not certain I've ever seen such a great opportunity. Even though there's a lot of tension out there with COVID and social unrest. But I'm telling you, I think it's a great time to be an entrepreneur, and I hope you do too. So I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to go ahead and conclude this. And like I said, within the next 3 to 4 hours, you probably will see the replay. And if we can ever be of service in any way, shape, or form, just reach out. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here in a couple weeks.